Tales of Exilia is my favourite game of all time. I don't think it's the best game ever made, I don't even think it's the best JRPG necessarily, it's just my favourite.
This is brilliant, but I like this.
And ever since I platinumed Tales of Arise on PS5 for this review, I've been going back and forth over whether Tales of Arise is now my favourite game. I haven't definitively made that leap yet, but it's important to say that it's so close to being my favourite game that I would have to go back and play Exilia right now to figure that out. Tales of Arise is a step into a new era for the series, and I'll be talking about the eras of Tales past in a separate video coming soon, so get subscribed if you don't want to miss it. Arise is also an anniversary title, the 25th anniversary title to be exact, and more than ever before, I think Arise truly celebrates the entire series' history while moving forward and trying new things on its own. Arise has been given the budget and the development time that was needed to make it everything it deserves to be, and then some. The Tales series now has its very own Final Fantasy IX. Let's start with the new things. The biggest change by far is how the game looks. They haven't just moved to a new engine, they've also moved to a new art style and custom developed what they're calling the atmospheric shader, which gives Arise a truly unique appearance. At a glance, it looks anime inspired and semi-realistic, but stare a little closer and you'll see how everything looks as if it were painted. Arise is beautiful and unlike anything I've seen before. I cannot wait to see where they take this art style in the future. The only thing that lets the game down in this regard is a slightly aggressive draw distance, which causes some very noticeable pop-in certain areas. It's two locations in particular that seem to suffer from this problem, whereas most other places in the game you really need to go hunting for it and it's not overly noticeable while playing. I've played through the whole game on PS5, but I've also had the chance to play about 15 hours of the PC version so far as well, and this is present in both versions. I haven't had time to properly tinker around with the PC version to see if I can fix it yet, but I suspect it's actually something to do with a lighting engine rather than the draw distance. The game is very aggressive at culling lighting, and lighting is a key component of the atmospheric shader. Now, in terms of the way the story is presented, you'll be experiencing it in three main forms. The bulk of the main story is told through fully animated in-engine cutscenes. Very key moments in the story are told with 2D anime cutscenes animated by Ufotable, and skits, which are short, optional, often humorous character-driven scenes, are presented in a 2.5D comic panel format. All of these scenes, along with all victory lines and out-in-the-world party chatter, are fully voiced, which represents the bulk of the game, and it's only side content and random NPC talk that largely focuses on text boxes with limited voice lines. The story itself is just brilliant. I'm not going to go super in-depth on it here because I do not want to spoil it for anyone. The setup is that 300 years ago, the twin worlds of Dana and Rena went to war, with Rena emerging victorious. Rena has ruled over Dana ever since, forcing Danans into slavery and pilfering Dana's natural resources. You begin the story as a man who's lost all his memories and is unable to feel pain, and you're soon journeying through Dana with 5 companions you pick up along the way with the goal of liberating all the regions of Dana. If you've never played a Tales game before, you should know that a series trait is a story that begins very traditionally, only for it to be revealed not is all as it seems the further you progress. There are several moments in Tales of Arise that truly shocked me, and one moment in particular that made me lose my mind. I haven't decided yet whether I am going to do a full spoiler discussion video, but I am very tempted because I want to talk about this one specific moment. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know by giving this video a like. Something I am so thankful for in Arise is the return of Skits being Skits. The new 2.5D presentation that used the 3D models as a base is going to split the fanbase, but the reality is they wanted the world and narrative of Arise to feel as cohesive as possible, and it's kind of difficult to do that when upwards of 300 character-driven cutscenes are presented with a series of static 2D portraits that don't reflect the locations or appearance of the characters in-game. Plus, there is plenty of 2D elsewhere in the game. The ever-changing main menu with the most gorgeous 2D illustrations I've seen in any Tales game, the record amount of Ufotable 2D animation, and the 2D portraits that accompany all of the victory talk and party chatter. What I mean by Skits returning to being Skits is that in Berseria, Skits saw a dramatic shift from being short, optional character interactions to being extremely long, often forced main story cutscene replacements. The skits in Arise feel like skits again, and while there are a small number of skits that do trigger automatically, it's not nearly as often as in Berseria, and there are no 15-minute long skits or anything as annoying as that. I still would like to see them stick to skits strictly being skits in the future though. The few automatic skits in Arise might not be a big issue overall, but I don't want to see them fall into that Berseria-sized hole ever again. Almost every other aspect of the game can be traced back to various entries in the series' 25-year history. They're either straight evolutions like the field maps between cities, towns and locations that complete the world, or they're new combinations of similar mechanics we've seen before like in the combat system. The series moved away from an overworld style world map some time ago, and I don't think the field maps that replaced that system have ever truly lived up to those old overworlds. But Tales of Arise definitely takes field maps to the next level. They're much more than just hallways and corridors between towns. They are interesting locations in and of themselves. They feel alive and they're fun to explore. There are lots of branching pathways, you can jump and swim freely. There are chests, items, owls and fishing spots to discover in just about every location. Fishing is actually pretty fun, by the way. I normally don't like fishing minigames that much, but this one is quite addictive and quite a lot of fun. Combat in Tales of Arise might look like something totally brand new at a glance, but the newest thing about it is the combination of mechanics that it uses. There are some new things that round out the system, of course, but things like free running being the norm rather than linear motion is just following on from how the series has been heading all the way up to Berseria. The emphasis on dodging rather than guarding is a page out of the Grace's Handbook, boss battles being more about resource management and playing carefully is just Arise taking notes from the much older 2D entries in the series, and on and on. The way everything is brought together in Tales of Arise combat is new, and it does feel fresh. Combos are more dynamic than ever. You've got access to normal attacks, 12 arts in total with 6 ground and 6 for midair, 6 boost attacks, 2 mystic arts for each character, and boost strikes to top it all off. You can also quick swap characters in battle, giving you access to 72 total arts without ever having to enter a menu or pause the game. Each character feels distinctly different to play, and each character is well-rounded, so it never feels like you're being penalised for playing as a particular character. You're also not forced to constantly switch if that isn't how you like to play. The party AI is controllable almost to the level of Final Fantasy XII Gambits. The strategy menu lets you custom build 4 different AI strategies, and it gives you granular control over resources and party member behaviours. Boss fights have a different feel to them in Arise compared to previous games where boss battles were more or less just regular encounters with more health. You can no longer permanently hit stun bosses, but you can stagger them, knock them down, and render them incapable of acting in multiple different ways. Using the correct boost attacks can cause boost breaks as well as unlock contextual boost attacks that are specific for each boss. Large enemies and bosses have weak points that can cause a core break. Your attacks and arts can stagger depending on the damage you deal and your penetration stat. Perfect dodges and counter strikes also have an increased chance of causing stagger. Basically, they've given you a bunch of tools which allow controllable stagger. This turns boss fights into encounters that feel different from the multitudes of other normal encounters you'll be having. The skill panel, which ties directly into combat, is reminiscent of the Tales of Grace's skill system. The skill panel is made up of titles which you unlock for progressing the story and doing specific things in the game. Each title has a set of skills that can be unlocked with skill points which you can earn in battle and through side quests. Skills range from stat increases to increasing the number of regular attacks you can use to brand new arts and valuable abilities like being able to survive a fatal attack with 1 HP. Grade from previous games has been replaced with a duo of new systems. You get battle points from battles in much the same way you gained grade from battles in previous games. The higher the battle points you earn, the more skill points you get. Artifacts cover the other part of grade. Rather than spending accumulated grade on enhancements for New Game Plus, those enhancements are attached to artifacts which can be toggled on or off. You'll find artifacts through exploration and from some side quests. Artifacts include effects like increasing your XP gain by 80%, but they also do the other stuff, like the ability to carry over items and levels when you start New Game Plus. Before I get to the final summary and close out this review, here are some quick notes. I achieved the platinum at 71 hours of playtime, but I'm still currently playing trying to get 100% completion. There are a few skits, chests and items that I've yet to find. This can all be tracked in-game in the play records menu. I've also not done New Game Plus as of yet. Series mainstays like the Colosseum with both solo and group battle challenges is in the game, and there is also an extensive cameo sequence. It is by far my favourite cameo section in the series so far. It isn't just a battle or two. I don't want to ruin it, but just think less about who the cameos are and more about the whole cameo section, how big it is, and what you actually do when I say it's my favourite of the series. The cameo stuff, along with a bunch of other side quests, are only accessible in the post-game. When you've beaten the game, you'll be able to reload that cleared save file, which puts you before the final boss with new stuff unlocked out in the world. You can also start New Game Plus at any time with any save that stems from this cleared save file. And that pretty much wraps it up. Tales of Arise exceeded my expectations in just about every way. The cast, the world, and the story are all brilliant. The writing is excellent. The look is utterly unique and simply beautiful. The combat and gameplay is more fun than ever, and everything I love about the Tales series is here in one way or another. It truly lives up to its themes of inheritance and evolution. This is just as much a celebration of my favourite JRPG series of all time as it is a step forward into a new era for Tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.